Senator Johnson.
Hey, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to try and simplify these issues here because this is incredibly complex what we're talking about. First of all, I think the main root cause here is the distinction between taxing worldwide income and not. I mean, I've known that individuals get taxed on their worldwide income. I was not aware of the fact that only America and Eritrea are the only two countries. Mr. Dunn, the reason we don't tax corporate worldwide income is we would be uncompetitive and we would see inversions of corporations, right? They would just locate offshore. They'd become, again, we don't want to change our citizenship so you can get away with taxing worldwide income in individuals, but corporations, they can be run by U.S. citizens, but domicile someplace else, correct? Is that the basic?
Yes, that's correct.
So if we attempted to tax worldwide income, that'd backfire on us, wouldn't it?
Yes, and it has historically with a lot of the inversions that we saw leading up to the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act.
So the fact that we don't tax worldwide income, that sets up the whole complex issue of transfer payments. And just, paper entries, a legal document that says this IP is owned in that country that has low tax rates, or, all these costs are incurring here. And I mean, that's playing whack-a-mole, isn't it, Mr. Curtis? I mean, you can say you can set up all these rules and all these laws, but you're still just playing whack-a-mole.
That is true. The check-the-box rules help with this as well, because under check-the-box, if you have a shell company offshore and you put the IP in there, offshore, you can split the IP returns into a tax haven, and then you have functional entities that are doing some things. But under check-the-box, your entities underneath get checked into this shell company, or the shell company gets checked into another company. For U.S.
You're just describing the complexity that we have.
Exactly.
My whole point, any of the three witnesses think that the U.S. tax system is simple and rational? So the thrust of this questioning, I only got 5 minutes, and it's not nearly enough to really explore this, is what could we accomplish by simplifying our tax code, by making it more rational? I mean, to me, income ought to be income. The fact that we have different tax rates for corporate income versus capital gains, I think index out the capital gain and have a unified tax rate scheme. Things like cash income. We have all these loopholes, they call them. It's just about amortizing. It's depreciating over different years. They're all arbitrary. What would we potentially accomplish, for example, just moving to cash-based income? Would that have any impact on this at all? I mean, forget the paper entries of transfer payments, or it's like, no, you got the cash in the U.S., you're going to be paying tax on it. I mean, is there some way or ways that we can simplify our tax code, rationalize it, they'll start addressing this as opposed to continue to play whack-a-mole with just something that's naturally complex? Mr. Dunn.
Thank you for the question. The answer is yes. So Tax Foundation has looked at various forms of corporate income taxes, including cash flow taxes. And cash flow taxes are relatively rare across the world, but where we see them working well. There is a paper we put out last year looking at essentially a cash flow tax for the U.S., and it can be both supportive of growth and revenue positive. And these are things that I think lawmakers should be thinking about simplicity while also aiming for certain revenue targets.
Let me also point out, if we would transition to cash-based income, it would simply be a timing difference, correct? I don't know how long a time period it would all work its way out, but yeah, I mean, if you're investing today in some kind of R&D or some kind of capital equipment, you're going to have a lower tax rate because you have less cash on hand. But 5 years, the next 4 years where you're not making that investment, your cash income is going to increase, correct?
Exactly.
Did you have any feel for how many years that would take to play out? in terms of that timing difference?
So in the long run, it all works out.
Right.
The challenge is that depending on what you're investing in, whether it's a building or a tractor, the return on investment timeline differs across the economy. In the aggregate, we could see things turn around within the budget window, but more often than not, you're looking outside the 10-year budget window to really see things turn around.
So most appreciation on equipment would be pretty short, right? 5 years, 7 years?
Correct.
Buildings are
39?
Buildings are what?
39?
Yeah, so I mean, it's going to take a while for that to work. What about R&D?
Well, we're currently amortizing R&D based on I think it's 3 to 5 years, somewhere in there, yes.
Okay.
But that's a change.
Again, what I'd love to have, I'd love to hold a hearing on how do we simplify and rationalize our tax code? Because, again, nobody wants to see tax evasion. I don't know what percent of the tax gap is evasion versus avoidance, as you were pointing out, Mr. Dunn, but avoidance is all about a complex tax system. So anything we can do to rationalize and simplify it, that's the drum I've been beating, and I'd like this committee to take the time to really analyze that. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Johnson. Senator Van Hollen.